shear the drill string, enabling a drill ship to move off location quickly if necessary because of bad weather. Unlike the spherical BOP, which is a universal blowout preventer, RAM BOPs must be fitted with rams designed for a particular application. Pipe rams must be changed as the size of the drill string or casing changes. Blind rams are designed to close on an open hole. Shear rams are equipped with a cutting blade to cut the pipe in the hole and seal the well bore in one operation. Shear rams also can function as blind rams in an open hole. Because many wells will require several types of ram BOPs, N.L. Schaefer builds ram blowout preventers in single, double, and triple configurations. Ram BOPs also can be stacked in almost any combination. The spherical blowout preventer is mounted at the top of the BOP stack. N.L. Schaefer manufactures 4 basic models of ram blowout preventers. SL models, which are built primarily in large bore and high working pressure sizes for subsea and deep drilling applications. LWS models, which are used mostly for land operations. LWP models, chiefly for production, workover, and low-pressure drilling operations. And Sentinel models, for well servicing, workover, and low-pressure drilling operations. Like spherical blowout preventers, most ram BOPs are operated hydraulically. Hydraulic fluid moving under pressure drives pistons, which in turn close the rams. The smaller chain-driven Sentinel blowout preventers can be operated manually with a hand wheel. A standard 3,000 psi accumulator system furnishes the hydraulic power to close and open most N.L. Schaefer ram blowout preventers from the rig floor or from another well site location. Like Schaefer spherical BOPs, ram blowout preventers require only one opening and one closing hydraulic line. You can easily close the rams by applying 1500 psi closing hydraulic pressure. To verify that the rams have closed, watch for inward movement of the hand wheels or locking shafts. The rams open when you apply 1500 psi opening hydraulic pressure. When the rams close, the 2 rubber faces of the rams contact each other and the drill pipe. As they close, the ram blocks also flex vertically so they align exactly. Continued closing movement pushes the rubber faces of the ram so they seal around the drill pipe and against each other. As closing action continues, the ram rubber is pushed upward against the raised sealing surface at the top of the ram cavity. Even if the upper sealing surface is worn, the rubber will form an initial seal. Wellbore pressure improves the seal by pushing the ram blocks upward to close any remaining clearance between the ram blocks and the sealing surface of the ram cavity, and by forcing the rams even more tightly around the pipe and against each other. Poslock pistons, an N.L. Schaefer exclusive, automatically lock the rams each time they are closed. With Poslock, the rams will remain locked in the closed position, even if closing pressure is removed, such as when an offshore rig or drill ship must move off location. Opening hydraulic pressure is required to reopen the locked pistons. Poslock pistons are operated through the same hydraulic lines as the blowout preventer. When you apply hydraulic pressure to close the rams, the pressure also activates the Poslock piston, which locks the ram in the closed position. To open the rams, simply apply opening hydraulic pressure. The opening pressure unlocks the Poslock piston and moves the ram outward. Poslock pistons are adjusted in the factory and normally do not require adjustment in the field, except when you change from pipe rams to shear rams or vice versa. If you need to adjust Poslock pistons, ask your N.L. Schaefer service representative for instructions. Manual lock pistons move inward to close the rams when you apply closing hydraulic pressure. To lock the rams, turn the locking shaft clockwise until it shoulders against the cylinder head. To open the rams, first unlock the pistons by turning the locking shaft counterclockwise. Then apply opening hydraulic pressure to open the rams. If hydraulic pressure fails, you can use manual lock pistons to close the rams manually. And since the manual locking shafts are visible from the outside, they also provide a convenient indicator of the position of the rams. Manual lock and Poslock pistons can be interchanged by replacing the ram shaft, piston assembly, and cylinder head. Before you install a ram blowout preventer at a new well, you should clean, inspect it, and test it. First, thoroughly clean the interior, exterior, and bore of the BOP with steam or high-pressure water. You also may use diesel fuel to clean the exterior of the BOP and the ram assembly. However, diesel fuel should not be used to clean other parts of the BOP, since it is flammable and could ignite, and also because it will damage rubber goods. After you clean the BOP, blow it dry with compressed air, if it is available. Next, use water and a wire brush to clean the studs and/or nuts and the lifting eye threads. Use an emery cloth to clean the seat sealing surfaces, door face, door sealing surfaces, and door seal grooves. Wipe the seals with a damp cloth. Then clean and inspect the sealing surface of the ring groove. Buff out minor pits and scratches with an emery cloth. If the surface is excessively worn, call an NL Schaefer service representative. Carefully inspect the studs and nuts and replace any that are damaged. Then check the description stamped on the blocks of each ram against the list in the NL Schaefer parts catalog to be sure that the correct rams are installed in each cavity. Finally, lubricate all interior parts according to the instructions in your operator's manual. If the BOP must be stored between wells, cover it with polyethylene and elevate it on 2x4s to protect it from weather and corrosion. To install the blowout preventer, lift it with a hoist and lower it onto the mating flange. On models with lifting lugs cast into the body, wrap a chain or strong cable around the lugs. On models without lifting lugs, wrap a strap or chain around the ram doors, keeping the strap or chain as close as possible to the body of the BOP. Attach the hoist line to the strap or chain to lift the blowout preventer. Never lift the blowout preventer by the cylinders. If you do, you could damage the cylinders, piston assembly, or ram shaft and prevent the BOP from working correctly. If the BOP is installed upside down, it will not prevent a blowout. Yet, it is easy to become confused about which end of the blowout preventer is the top. To be sure you are installing it correctly, check to see that the side outlets for the choke and kill lines are below the rams. To double check, look inside the BOP to be sure the skids in the ram compartments are below the rams, and that the ram sealing seats are positioned at the top of the ram cavity. Some models even will have the word top, or the phrase, "this side up," cast into the BOP housing. It also is easy to locate the top of the preventer on models with lifting lugs cast into the BOP body, since the lifting lugs are always positioned above the mud flange outlets. To make up flanged and studded connections, install the correct ring gasket on the mating flange before you hoist and lower the BOP. Refer to your operator's manual for the correct ring gasket. Inspect the threads of the stud and the stud hole, then lubricate the stud threads and nut faces according to API standards before you install the studs and/or nuts. Tighten the nuts uniformly in the staggered pattern shown in your operator's manual, using the torque specified in the manual. The staggered tightening pattern and specific torque helps ensure a tight, level connection. Then connect the side flanges, inspecting and lubricating the studs and/or nuts as you did on the mating flange. For hub connection, install the ring gasket and lower the BOP as you would for flanged or studded connections. Then clean and lubricate the raised surface of the hub, the internal surfaces of the hub clamp, the stud threads, and the nut faces. When you assemble the clamp joint, be careful to maintain an equal distance between the two clamp halves. Tighten the studs alternately from one side to the other so the joint remains level. After you've installed the blowout preventer, install a gauge and a valve in both the opening and closing hydraulic lines. Then connect the two hydraulic lines to the opening and closing ports of the blowout preventer. Although some of the larger BOP models are equipped with additional hydraulic ports, only 2 hydraulic connections are necessary. If the blowout preventer has been properly maintained in the past, you may complete the installation inspection by performing a monthly maintenance check, which includes a well bore pressure test and a hydraulic pressure test. However, if you are not sure of the condition of the blowout preventer, you should perform a quarterly maintenance check, which includes not only the well bore and hydraulic pressure tests, but also a thorough visual inspection of the interior of the blowout preventer and, on a manual lock preventer, an operation test of the manual locks. The preventative maintenance program developed by N.L. Schaefer for RAM blowout preventers serves as an early warning system. It helps you find and repair problems so the blowout preventer will always be ready for action in an emergency. The program includes daily, monthly, and quarterly inspections and tests, but is designed with a flexibility to coincide with routine rig overhauls and normal rig moves between wells. The schedule you follow may differ depending on the specific requirements set by your company. If you use the N.L. Schaefer Preventative Maintenance Program, your daily checklist should include closing and opening all pipe rams on pipe to verify that they will operate, and closing and opening blind rams when the pipe is out of the hole. If possible, watch the rams move with a mirror. Never look into the ram cavity. If you do not have a mirror, verify ram operation by observing the movement of the hand wheels or locking shafts. As you apply closing and opening pressure, check for hydraulic leaks on the exterior of the blowout preventer. Look for leaks at the locking shaft seals, the cylinder head O-rings, the manifold pipe seals, the door seals, the weep holes, the hinges, the hydraulic connections, the API flanges, and the socket head pipe plug. Check the ram shaft packings by removing the weep hole plugs from each door. Once a month, when you apply opening hydraulic pressure, check for hydraulic leaks at the hinge pins, the cylinder to door seals, the weep holes at each ram door, and the hinge manifold pipes if the blowout preventer has them. When you apply closing hydraulic pressure, check for hydraulic leaks at the hinge pins, the cylinder head seals, the cylinder manifold pipe seals, the hinge manifold pipes if the blowout preventer has them, and on manual lock BOPs, the locking shaft seals and the cylinder heads. The second part of the monthly maintenance check is a wellbore pressure test. The wellbore pressure test for ram blowout preventers is similar to that for sphericals. During the test, subsea blowout preventers may remain in the BOP stack on the seafloor, or on the surface with the entire stack installed on a test dump, or with a blowout preventer removed from the stack and installed on a test dump or a blind flange. Blowout preventers on land rigs may be tested as they remain installed in a stack on the wellhead, or in a stack on a test dump or a blind flange, or with a blowout preventer removed from the stack and installed on a test dump or a blind flange. The recommended fluid for a wellbore pressure test is cold water. However, you may use drilling fluid. To conduct the test, first install a pressure gauge and a valve in both the opening and closing hydraulic lines. Hook up a test pump to pump the test water or drilling fluid. Install a test pipe or rod in the wellbore or through the center of the preventer so that it is supported by the test stump or blind flange. Anchor the test pipe on the box and pin belt it into the stump or flange. Anchoring prevents the simulated wellbore pressure from forcing the pipe upward out of the preventer. If you are testing on a stack, use a threaded wellbore plug to anchor the test pipe. To begin the test, fill the blowout preventer with water. Apply 1500 psi closing hydraulic pressure to close the pipe rams around the test pipe. Close the valve in the bleeder line and open the valve in the test unit line. Apply 200 to 300 psi wellbore pressure below the rams, then close the valve in the test unit line. Maintain the test pressure for a minimum of 3 minutes while you check for leaks by monitoring the gauge in the pressure line from the BOP. If the gauge indicates a pressure drop, the leak most likely is at the top and bottom ring gaskets, at the side outlets, at the door seals, in the ram shaft packing, or at the ram rubber. Leaks at the ring gaskets, side outlets, and door seals will be visible from the exterior of the BOP. A leak in the ram shaft packing will show up at the weep hole. If there is no leak at either place, the leak most likely is at the ram rubber. Reduce all hydraulic pressure and wellbore pressure to 0 and consult your operator's manual or N.L. Schaefer service representative for repair instructions. If there is no pressure drop during the holding period, Continue the test by opening the valve in the test unit line and repeating the test. To complete the monthly preventative maintenance sequence, check to see that all door cap screws are properly tightened. Make sure the universal joints are tight on the locking shafts, and lubricate the door hinges. If the blowout preventer has alamite fittings, lubricate them also. Every 3 months, add these items to your monthly checklist to complete the quarterly inspection. First, visually inspect all blowout preventer components. Open the ram doors and remove the rams. Instructions for removing the rams are described later in this program. If the blowout preventer has been removed from the stack and is sitting on a blind flange, open only one door at a time. Opening 2 doors can tip the preventer. Wash the inside of the preventer with steam or high-pressure water. If any of the door cap screws were hard to remove, examine the hole threads. If necessary, chase the threads with a tap or replace the cap screws. Inspect the door sealing area for pits and scratches and smooth them with an emery cloth. Check for pits and scratches on the seat of the blowout preventer. Smooth any irregularities with an emery cloth. Check for gouges and scratches on the skids and side pads. Since they are not sealing surfaces, you need only smooth them enough to allow the rams to slide smoothly over them. Examine the inside of the ram cavity and the bore for excessive wear. If the bore is worn more than 1/8 of an inch in any spot, call your N.L. Schaefer service representative. Apply closing hydraulic pressure to extend each ram shaft for inspection. Look for pits and scratches on each shaft, and check the foot end for cracks in the neck between the foot and the shaft. If a shaft is damaged, call your N.L. Schaefer service representative to replace it. Inspect the rubber door seals for damage and extrusion at the outer edges. If they are damaged or extruded, replace them. Instructions for replacing the seals are included later in this program. Remove the door seals to inspect the door seal grooves. Smooth minor pits with an emery cloth. If the grooves are extruded, brittle, cut, or nicked, call your N.L. Schaefer service representative. If you are inspecting a manual lock blowout preventer, inspect the locking shafts for damage. If they are damaged, call your N.L. Schaefer service representative to replace them. To inspect the rams, first wash them. Check the rubber elements for wear and cracks. Check the metal holders for wear, gouges, and scratches. Check the ram shaft mounting slot for cracks and tears. Replace any damaged components. Check the ram blocks for excessive wear, gouges, and scratches. Replace them if necessary, referring to the instructions in your operator's manual. For shear rams, also check to be sure that the upper rubber seals on top of the lower shear blade. If the upper rubber is worn or damaged where it seals on the lower blade, replace it. If the lower blade is nicked, pitted, or otherwise damaged so that it cuts the upper rubber, replace the blade. When the visual inspection is complete, and while the ram doors are still open, conduct a hydraulic pressure test on each set of rams to test for a leak past the piston. During the test, the BOP stack may remain on the wellhead or may be removed and installed on a test dump or blind flange if you plan to conduct a wellbore pressure test as well. The hydraulic pressure test requires the use of a valve and gauge in both the opening and closing hydraulic lines. The gauge should be installed between the valve and the blowout preventer. If the hydraulic system was open before the test, close and open the rams 3 times to purge air from the system. Normally, it is more convenient to begin the test at the bottom rams. You may conduct the test with the ram doors open or closed. If the doors are open, be sure they are wide open to ensure that the rams and pistons do not strike the BOP. To test closing hydraulic pressure, first vent the opening hydraulic line. Then apply 1500 psi closing pressure to close the rams. Close the valve in the closing hydraulic line and watch the pressure gauge. If there is no pressure drop, the hydraulic pressure is operating correctly, and you may go on to test the opening line. If there is a pressure drop, check for external leaks at the hinge pins, the cylinder head seals, the cylinder manifold pipe seals, and the hinge manifold pipes, if the blowout preventer has them. On manual lock BOPs, also check the locking shaft seals. If gauges are not available for the hydraulic lines, check for internal leaks past the pistons by disconnecting the closing hydraulic line and watching for a brief oil flow from the closing outlet. The flow should stop quickly. If it continues, it is an indication that hydraulic fluid is leaking past the piston. At that point, you should reinstall the closing hydraulic line and call an NL Schaefer service representative to repair the leak. To test opening hydraulic pressure, repeat the closing line test sequence, this time with the ram doors open so you can observe the ram shafts to check for ram shaft seal leaks. If there is a pressure drop during the test, check for external leaks at the hinge pins, the cylinder to door seals, the weep holes at each ram door, the ram shaft inside the door, and the hinge manifold pipes if the blowout preventer has them. If you discover leaks at any of those points, call an NL Schaefer service representative. To complete the quarterly maintenance check on a manual lock preventer, check the operation of the locks by hydraulically closing and manually locking the rams. Apply 1500 psi closing hydraulic pressure to close the rams. Then, turn each locking shaft clockwise until it locks. Each locking shaft will move outward until it stops against the cylinder head. To unlock and open the rams, set the hydraulic control valve to neutral. Vent the closing line to the atmosphere to prevent a hydraulic lock. Then turn the locking shaft counterclockwise until it stops. Rotate the shaft 1/8 of a turn clockwise to prevent temperature changes from jamming the locking shaft in the unlocked position. Apply 1500 psi opening hydraulic pressure and verify that the rams have opened by observing the outward movement of the hand wheels or locking shafts. Finally, conduct a second wellbore pressure test to complete the 3-month maintenance check. Your NL Schaefer service representative is responsible for the more extensive yearly tests. After approximately 3 years of service, the blowout preventer may require a service overhaul at an NL Schaefer facility. In addition to his responsibility for annual tests, your NL Schaefer service representative is responsible for any repairs that require the hydraulic system to be opened. Those repairs include repacking the ram shaft, replacing piston shields, replacing cylinder seals, replacing manifold pipe seals, replacing hinge seals, or repacking the locking shaft. Your additional responsibilities include changing the rams to fit different pipe sizes and special applications, replacing worn ram rubbers and door seals, chasing damaged threaded holes on the preventer body, and buffing out minor scratches on the ram sealing seat and door sealing area of the body. All NL Schaefer blowout preventers can be equipped with pipe rams and blind rams. Shear rams are available for offshore operations. All the rams are interchangeable. Changing the BOP rams is a simple process for several reasons. First, each ram and its operator is completely self-contained and mounted on a hinged door that, once unbolted, swings open easily. Even the torquing requirements are relatively low. The flat doors of SL and some LWS models also simplify ram changes, since you can remove the ram from the ram shaft without having to apply closing hydraulic pressure to move the ram clear of the door. Since in all models the hydraulic lines are built into the door hinges, there is no need to break or remake connections, and no loss of hydraulic fluid when the doors are opened, even when there is pipe in the hole. In double and triple BOPs, the bottom doors swing out from under the upper cylinders, so you can attach a hoisting line directly to the ram blocks. To change the rams on SL models, first, apply opening hydraulic pressure to move the rams to the fully open position. Then bleed off the hydraulic pressure so the doors will swing open easily without damaging the hinge pin O-rings. Remove the door cap screws and swing the door open. Do not use the hydraulic system or locking shaft to open the door. You will damage the blowout preventer. To remove the ram, install an eye bolt in the top of the ram. Then remove the ram from the ram shaft by sliding it off horizontally with a hoisting line. On high-pressure BOPs, the ram lifts off vertically. Before you install the new ram, lubricate all the exterior surfaces of the ram shaft mounting slot, the ram shaft mounting head, the side pads in the body cavity, the skids in the bottom of the body cavity, and the ram sealing seat in the top of the body cavity. Apply thread lubricant to the threads and under the heads of the door cap screws. Clean and oil the door face and replace the door seal if it is damaged, and clean and oil the door sealing surface on the body. Then mount the new ram on the ram shaft, close the door, and tighten the door cap screws. To change the rams on LWS models, which have recessed doors, open the doors and apply reduced closing hydraulic pressure to extend the rams several inches. Retract the rams into the door cavities before you close and tighten the ram doors. Be sure the ram is centered so it will not hit the door. Rams mount vertically on LWP models. As on LWS models, you must extend and retract the rams to change them. On Sentinel models, just remove the side plate and slide the rams out. To replace worn ram rubbers, remove the two retracting screws in the ram block. Remove the ram holder by sliding it away from the block. Remove the two retaining screws in the ram rubber at the back of the ram block. Pry the rubber from both sides of the back of the ram block with two screwdrivers. Then, using a metal punch, drive the front face of the rubber off the ram block to remove the old rubber. Clean out any particles of rubber from the retaining screw threads. Then insert the face of the ram rubber into the face of the ram block and tap it in place with a hammer. Pull the bands of rubber into place on the back of the ram block and tap them into place with a hammer. Finally, reinstall the retaining screws, ram holder, and retracting screws. The retracting screws will shoulder up to the ram block before the heads of the screws tighten up to the ram holder. To replace a worn door seal, open the door, remove the door seal, and clean the door seal seat and face. Inspect the door seal seat for damage. Smooth minor pits and scratches with an emery cloth. If the seat is badly damaged, call your NL Schaefer service representative. Next, clean and oil the door sealing surface on the body and oil the door seal seat and face. Install the new door seal, then apply thread lubricant to the door cap screws, close the door, and tighten the door cap screws. This completes the installation, operation, and maintenance instructions for NL Schaefer spherical and ram blowout preventers. If you have questions or need further information, please contact your NL Schaefer service representative.